Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. I will begin from platform updates. What's new we deliver this spring. And just give me a second. I will share my screen because I think the best way to discuss release notes, release updates is just to show what we have on the platform. So I hope you can see my screen. This is the application, and for those who are not aware, what is DroneGIS? So DroneGIS is an affordable web-based platform for delivering project results of surveying and engineering companies. So actually, when surveying or engineering company has been established, so the first thing founders do, they develop their website and they explain to the market what they offer. But the second question they typically have in terms of IT infrastructure is how to properly store their project data, how to deliver to their clients, home builders, and other companies from construction industry. And here, actually, there are many options here, starting from iCloud, Google Drive, Dropbox, other platforms. But of course, it is convenient when your data management platform also helps you to not just to store data and send download links to your clients, but also to visualize data. And our platform helps visualize various types of data. So, but let's start from very first thing that I would like to show is actually how you can customize the platform to be in line with your corporate brand, because I know that's very important, and we got a lot of questions how we can make our data sharing platform look the same as our corporate website. And I would like to start from this simple but very powerful feature. And to do that, you actually simply can visit organization configuration, and let's change logo and color of the application. So I will take our corporate website and I will simply copy the link to our logo from our website and paste it to the logo URL and press save. So you see that the default logo of the application changed to the corporate logo. And also let's change the default color of the software, which will basically affect color of buttons and main elements of the user interface. Simple thing, but now when you come to your clients, you can just present everything under your own branding, which is a small, but again, very powerful thing, and actually to make a proper impression, professional impression. Okay, now after discussing these small cosmetic things, let's actually dig into what's new in terms of working with actual spatial data. I will start from very simple improvement. First of all, the feature that our clients asked us for some time is to introduce various measurement tools for 2D view. So previously, as actually you might remember, we had measurement tools, linear measurement tools, area measurement tools, cross sections, and volumes only in 3D user interface. But what we noticed is that in many cases, people just don't use 3D because it, sometimes it may work a bit slower, and in many cases, 2D view is just sufficient, simple enough, looks good on all devices like phones and tablets. So we added measurement tools to 2D view. So now you can use linear measurement, area measurement, cross-section, and volume right on the 2D map. So for example, if you draw a cross-section, immediately you see the elevation profile. And also the same thing for volumes. So now you can measure cut, fill, net, and total earth volume for the selected area. The next thing that we significantly improved is the way how we visualize elevation data in 2D view. So let's turn it on. So, and you see that elevation data has been rendered as kind of a heat map. But besides that, we also added several very useful things that may help you to, for example, display kind of contour lines. So let's inspect this file. So from the cross section, we know that the altitude range is around, like it's within 20 and 23 meters. Fine. So what we can do, so here for the altitude, we can say that, okay, we want to show, to colorize only altitudes within the range 19 and 23 meters. And what we also can do, we can visualize altitudes as contours. And you can configure step. So for example, you can specify half of the meter, or you can specify 1 meter. And of course, that depends on the on your use case, but that's pretty flexible. So you can see elevation deviations in different circumstances. You can configure transparency of this heat map. So you can combine both orthomosaics and elevation heat map. Another thing about volumes is that in case of volumes, we have 4 measurement modes. The first and default measurement mode is when we take the perimeter of the area, and the reference surface is calculated from points over the perimeter of the area. Another option is to upload 3D design as DWG or DXF file and calculate differences between the reference 3D surface and elevation. Also, you can compare to another DSM, or you can simply specify absolute AMSL level, for example, to simulate kind of a flooding of this area with water. On our website, we have detailed article explaining how to use all these features. Also, another important feature is that you can visualize not only elevation heat map, but also design from DXF or DWG files on the map. And actually, if this file contains some layers, then you can switch these layers on and off separately. One very frequent question is how to deal with custom projections, or what if projection is not among the list of projections in the software. So now you can specify the projection for your map. Here's a field in the bottom left corner, and when you click on this field, you see current projection. But what is more important is that you can also specify custom projection in WKT or Proj4 format. So for example, if you have a projection definition, and for example, I will copy it from EPSG.io site. So you can simply paste it here, press OK, and that projection will be applied to X and Y coordinates visualized in the bottom right corner of the map. Also, you can always switch to 3D map if needed, and just inspect your data from different angles. But this functionality was on the platform all the time before. So you can keep using it if you like it more than 2D. Okay, so another thing that we recently implemented is the ability to optimize your storage space. And let me give you an example. So, for example, you have a data set that you already presented to the client. And okay, yeah. So imagine that you already have a data set that you some time ago you delivered orthomosaics and other products to your client, like some 2D design, 3D model. And say after a month or a half a year, you visit the same site and you want to deliver just another orthomosaics to the same client. So let's switch to another version of this data set. And here we see the updated orthomosaics, but the client asks you to combine this data with all other layers like 3D model, 3D some designs. And previously, to do that, the only option was to upload the same layers just again and again. And of course, that takes your time to upload this data to the map, but it also consumes storage of your account, which is not good, definitely. So we implemented a very simple solution for that. So now you can link project layers. What it means? It simply allows you to add layers from other data sets without copying them to the data set. You just add links. And this means that the storage size doesn't increase. And at the same time, you get access, you can put layers as some reusable artifacts in one place, and then just link to these layers from other parts of your project. And for example, if you make some changes to this layer in other part of the project, then these changes will be propagated also to all data sets which reference this data. Another note that I can make is that we significantly reworked the way how we process data. So now it is possible to upload files up to 100 gigabytes to the platform. I mean, if we speak about something which can be really big, like point clouds or some big orthomosaics, so it is possible to upload big files to the platform. And one last thing that also was requested by our clients, let me show you. Is the ability to do measurements, to make measurements on 3D models. So previously it was possible to make measurements on point clouds and model and elevations, but now you can upload 3D model and you can, for example, measure the area of this solar panel right on your 3D model, which is generated, for example, in DJI Terra. And as you can see, we support 2 types of units. So now it's square yards, but also you can switch to meters and it will be square meters. So here in the bottom left corner, there is a simple switch between meters and feet. So you can change units whenever you need that. Basically, these are all updates from me, and I'll be happy to answer your questions in Q&A session. And now, Steve, your turn. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So thank you for having me on this morning. I appreciate it. I'm the founder of Southeast Geospatial, and I've been working with Alexei for probably about a year now through the DroneGIS platform. But we use DroneGIS to really elevate how we deliver our results to our clients. One thing that Alexei mentioned earlier was, right, you had your options, you had Box, you had OneDrive, you had all that, but again, those were flop files, right? So if you're sharing a point cloud, that's great, but then you're trusting someone who may not be familiar with how to load or manage or view a point cloud to just grab that data and do something with it. So I'll go a little bit more about how we made the decision to leverage DroneGIS shortly. But first, real quick about us so that you know who we are. Southeast Geospatial is a relatively new name. We started it as Adventure Coast Orthomosaic and Mapping Solutions down here in Florida. I'm located in the United States, in Florida, where it's already hitting 94 degrees or 34.5 for those of you who use Celsius. And we kind of started as a very narrow organization based on feedback that I had heard from those in real estate, right? They wanted, when they were selling 50, 80, 100, 300 acres of land, they wanted someone who could go out and get those orthomosaics and superimpose the property boundaries. What I quickly found was that I couldn't run a company on thank you, and they didn't have the money to pay us what we felt the equipment justified. So we again started to look at where those things go, and this started back in March of 2023, and we found that engineering firms were there were several smaller ones that made it. It was challenging to take the leap to drones because of the investment. It was also challenging with some of the older surveyors to have them accept that drones could be a viable tool in the shed. And ultimately, I pride myself in the fact that we're a geospatial company first and we're drone pilots second. We'll talk more about that shortly too. So we determined the need to cater to these engineering firms with both LiDAR and photogrammetry. And in September of 2024, September of last year, I left the corporate world where I was a cybersecurity consultant and I was in IT for 34 years. I left a Big Four accounting firm where I vetted every one of their internal projects on the infrastructure side, whether it was Microsoft or IBM or network layers or Azure Cloud. I did the security reviews as well as assisted in the privacy impact assessments for our GDPR countries, protecting 400,000 employees and 50.1 billion in revenue. Left all that in September of last year to focus on this, and it's been a good decision. I haven't had to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to a crowd like this for for 9 months now. So so there you are. And now we've kind of found that niche to support residential development. So when I say that, we start all the way from in the U.S. cycle, especially here in Florida, but we support the Southeast United States. You start in planning and zoning, right? So the sadly sometimes the farm that the current generation doesn't want to work anymore, they decide they want to sell and retire to a Caribbean country. That has to go through planning and zoning and make sure that the use is going to be approved. We start with that with an ortho mosaic. Then they have to go to engineering with the engineering firm. So we'll support the engineering firm with our LiDAR deliverables and topographies through vegetation and everything on a much faster basis than traditional what they call a gun, the total station, or the or using GNSS to get those measurements. And some of our areas in Florida can be a little challenging for their own reasons. If you're familiar with Florida, there's a lot of things that are unfriendly, snakes, things of that nature. It's hot, it's humid, it's swampy in some cases, and getting people to go out there and do this type of work, there's a lot of turnover. So we support engineering firms in that, and then once the ground's broken, we start with the project management deliverables. And depending on where our client is, those projects could span 10, 15, 20 years. Which is great for recurring revenues in our business model. So we fly the DJI platforms right now because, to be honest with you, in my opinion, DJI's got, it's hard to beat their photogrammetry stuff. We'll see where it goes legally in the US, but we have the 300, the 350, and a Matrice 4. And we find ourselves, I'm finding myself to be in a unique position in the market because, I started this in 2023 and I made sure that I understood the end-to-end workflow, especially around LiDAR deliverables. Even with some of the larger competitors in my area, there's a lot of assumption that the pilots understand how changing the parameters affects the quality of the data. Then the data processors assume that the pilots understood that, and then finally the CAD engineers and the CAD surveyors and the CAD people again assume the upstream products were solid coming down. And what I see, especially with some of my competitors that are much larger than us, is that not only can we produce a solid quality that's well within spec using DJI's platform, but a lot of the times our deliverables are of a better quality because the person who flew it went on site, saw it, processed the data, and then did the CAD deliverable. So it was one person throughout the process, and we find that that delivers an amazing product. So real quick, I am because the quality of the data is critical to me, and I think that will always be our what sets us kind of in the middle between a surveying firm and a drone company. I am a student of survey engineering at the University of Maine. I already have a bachelor's in computer information systems. I spent 34 years in IT. I've got 5 children between my wife and I that you see on the screen, 3 needy dogs, 2 of which are in my office right now, and then my one amazing partner. And this, Jenna has been by my side throughout this entire journey. So, everything I have is thanks to her. How we got started with SPH Engineering is that we are a UGCS client. Alexei reached out asking about our usage of UGCS. And in fact, I don't know if he recalls, but when we talked about our usage of UGCS, I was on a project site flying a drone with another one of my pilots. So it was responsible. But we were talking while we were doing data gathering, and I expressed my frustration that as a services provider, there wasn't very many options in sharing our data with our clients that weren't being hosted by companies that said, oh, by the way, you may not even need your own drone company either. Just go buy a drone, go fly it, send us the data and we'll turn back results. And so that was a very big frustration of mine. And Alexei said, well, we've got this platform, and we started working together on that, and we've been working with them, feedback, opportunities. And that's one of the things I appreciate about this platform is, for example, with DJI. If you're familiar with the DJI Terra platform, which in my opinion does a great job on orthomosaics and models, we process there as often as we can because it does a really good job. When you want to generate a grid of points, which is one of the deliverables my clients want, it has a hard limit of 10 meters. Well, my clients want 50 feet. In 2 years, I've never been able to get DJI to take off the hard limit of 10 meters. So I can't generate 50-foot grid of points out of DJI Terra. So I have to run it through a Pix 4D platform just for that one deliverable. Whereas if I have an issue with the DroneGIS platform and I reach out to Alexei, we can have a conversation about that. And there's a lot of things, and especially things that he just talked about this morning, that I can recall asking about. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But the point is those are now being implemented, and I can tell you from the time I asked to the time that these are being implemented, it was a very, very short run up. So that's definitely one of the advantages. So let's switch over to our portal and actually see how, it's one thing to have a demo of the system, but how are we using it in front of our clients to show them the benefits and ultimately sell them on the services that we offer. And this is one of ours. This is one of our demo systems. This was actually a flight that I did on Christmas Day at this project site. And interestingly enough, my brother has worked as a CAD QA person in residential for over 30 years as well. And he was looking at this and he said, Steve, we got a problem here. I said, what's that? He goes, look, you can see from your flight that these trusses are just sitting on the ground, right? And you can even go as far as to see, based on the data, what location they're for. It's right there. But here's the problem. He said, now turn around and look at the houses. He said, you got one with a pad, two with a pad. You've got two that are ready for trusses, but here in Florida, that wall is not capped, it's still open, which means the inspection hasn't completed yet. Therefore, these trusses are early, and not only are they early, but they're sitting on the ground, which means that if there's any moisture in the ground or if it rains, they're going to absorb that moisture, they're going to get wet, could lead to mold issues. So now you have a logistics problem with the delivery of these trusses and how they operate. Another client came along and looked at one of the debris bins in our portal and noted a large amount of drywall. Well, they're billed for every sheet of drywall. So now they're able to look in there and go, well, wait a second, why do we have so much drywall in there? And at the same time, when you look at the amount of block that's out front here, and the fact that some of it in the debris pile is still solid, these are the things that our builders and our clients are looking at and saying, well, wait a second, I paid for every one of those blocks in that building. Why is it that there's so much debris that I've paid for from that build, and why is it still there? Again, my brother took it as again in the actual design of the home. Can they design the home better so that there's less waste? I mean, there's always going to be waste, right? But can they engineer the home to have less waste based on the design? So that's one of our use cases. The other thing that we do is that we use this depending on the deliverables of the clients and their requirements. Some of them may want, for example, a PDF that we do in our own title block that shows their spot elevations as well as their basic contours. And again, instead of having it in multiple locations, we can come over here and we can just go to the attachments area and we can add that attachment. I don't have anything in here, but if I go to that project that we had just referenced with that PDF, we can see, not only do they get to see the model, but right here they get to see the attachment. So we're not saying go over here to drop I'm sorry, box. Don't go, go over here to our iCloud or our Google Drive or whatever, and then come over here to see it. We're putting it all in one location. If I switch over to another portal that we have, this was a project that we turned. So we flew in the morning, processed at the hotel, and presented the next morning. And for those of you who use UGCS, this was actually flown as an oblique using their circle grammetry flight planning software. If you're doing oblique images for more robust models, I would definitely recommend trying that out. You know, I was probably taking a little bit of a risk by doing this on a fast turnaround, but the prospect was very, very impressed with the quality of the model that we were getting, especially down low here, where a lot of the times it kind of morphs when you do a traditional smart oblique or oblique data set. Obviously they were very impressed with the quality of the model, but what really I believe sold it was the ability to bring on the designs. Okay, so this is an example of the design. Now, one thing that we will tend to do is try to be cognizant of our audience, right? If you look at a traditional design, whatever standard the engineering firm's using, some of this can get a little bit confusing, right? Now, most of us in the industry would know that that's edge of pavement. If you're using AIA standards, it's even more confusing. VTopo, VANO, VNode. So what we will do for the clients that request it is we will rename these in the file to be more user friendly, with the understanding that not every one of our users, even though they are in the business, aren't that far in the business. So we'll rename these layers. But when you turn on the two sidewalk layers, you'll notice, and we pointed this out quickly, that the sidewalk is actually spec to 4 feet. That's what the design is. But if you look, there's an extra foot here. And we pointed this out, and I measured that data, measured this in Civil 3D, and then measured the data 4 different ways, including sending somebody to the site with a tape measure and saying, please verify. And that's the important thing too, is having the skill set to verify what you're presenting, because you're asking someone to make informed decisions on this, and being able to present the facts is important. But we measured this, and sure enough, had a variety of options. Did the design change? And we have an old design file. Did the did the person who put in the sidewalk, are they normally used to putting in 5s, and they said, okay, I got to put a sidewalk in. Here's my markers. I'll build the forms and I'll make a 5-foot sidewalk when it should be 4. But most importantly for this client is, who's picking up the bill on 125% of budget for sidewalks? And that right there is what sells them on our service, because as you can see, these 5-foot wide sidewalks, many are in place, but many haven't been done yet. So what is the option? Is the option to come over here, put a 4-foot wide sidewalk here, and have this 1-foot gap? Or do you just have to do the 5 now and pay and blow your budget on sidewalks by 125% because you have that much more? Because this design, as you can see, is going to go all the way up here, complete with sidewalks, and then it'll eventually wrap back around. So there is a lot of sidewalk that has to go in. And had we been able to pick that up when the forms were going in by having a frequent flight cadence and showing that information in here, they could have put it on the subcontractor doing the sidewalks to address that problem. So that's basically how we're using the platform to deliver. And the things that I appreciate are the fact that we can kind of curtail that deliverable to the client. You'll also notice that we brand to ourselves, right? Here's our portal, but we also brand to our client, and we do that for 2 reasons. One, security, because now when I put that user into a portal, I don't have to worry about contamination and making sure that somebody set the correct, let me go back over, set the correct security at the project level. It's just at the portal level. And the second being is a sense of ownership. This is their portal, not our portal. So they have their custom, this is their colors, their logos, and even down to their little icon up here on the tab. So we do brand that, and we do pay per portal for users and stuff like that, as opposed to just trying to do one and put all users in there. I don't think there's much difference at all. Plus, we're now able to handle our billing for storage back to the client per client, as opposed to if one client uses more storage than the others. So let me come back over to um, the uh, the presentation. And one thing that I was asked is, where do I see this industry going, especially around residential development? I'm good friends with our uh, agricultural commissioner here in Florida, Wilton Simpson. One thing that he likes to say is, we're not growing any more land. And so as in development here in Florida, development in Alabama, areas that I work in are it's just it's everywhere, right? So where do I see this going? Because the development is definitely here. I don't I personally don't think cloud providers has helped our business. I don't think that while it's good for marketing and good for sales, firing up YouTube videos and saying that basically it's so easy, anyone can do it, and not having that pilot understand how the different parameters affect the quality of the results fully helps us at all. I think there's a lot of people that you whether you see this on social media or on YouTube and things like that, it's, well, you know, can I just start doing maps and surveys with this drone? And it's like, please don't, because learn the business first. And that's why I've invested in my own education. These large monolithic surveying firms take for granted that each team upstream has delivered the best quality product as an input to their process. And I see this in our market where I'm sitting with deliverables from a large firm that, when I saw them at an event, they were, the only thing they could talk about was their $250,000 LiDAR sensor on their $100,000 drone. That's awesome. But when I look at your contour map, and you've got what's clearly a pond with 5 different elevations on it, you haven't really delivered. What you've done is you've actually picked up vegetation. And the reason is because, again, the person who's processing your data that you gathered doesn't know what's actually there. And so I see sloppy results in that because of that disconnect. I don't know what the situation is in other countries, but I know in the US, the number of surveyors is dropping, and it's not that challenging to figure out why, right? My son, for example, completed his degree in 4 years in cybersecurity, came out of college and works for a Big Four accounting firm, same one I left, as a analyst, making great money, $80,000 a year, working from home, right, in the air conditioning and all that. To become a surveyor in most of the jurisdictions that I'm going to become licensed in, not only do I have to get a 4-year degree, but then I have to study under a licensed surveyor for 4 years and be responsible for the accuracy of the data. So I have to go out in the woods. I have to go deal with the bugs and the insects and the heat and humidity, and just so I can then take the test. And if someone's doing that as a career for that 4 years, whether they're in school or out of school, that job pays a fraction of what the cybersecurity guy gets paid, yet the degrees were the same cost. So in Florida, we're facing a crisis of, I believe we're up to about 37,000 engineers and 1,600 surveyors. And we're in a good position based on the situation of our neighboring states like Alabama and Georgia, where there's a high concentration of engineers and a much smaller number of surveyors. So I think that the future, and the reason I'm investing not only in the quality of the deliverables we do, but I think what you're going to see in the future is your engineering firms that are designing the subdivisions, until they make a really drastic change, which could be as simple as letting engineers sign off on surveys, which I think is a bad idea, for its own reasons, that most surveying is legal. But I think what you're going to find and I'm already seeing it, is engineering firms, when their surveyors retire, are going to be looking to folks like our company to say, okay, instead of we have one surveyor and this client has one surveyor and this client has one surveyor, they're all outsourcing their surveying needs. And that's kind of, I think, the next iteration of that. That's why I'm making in the investment in my degree. And that's why I'm adamant about making sure that we use those traditional methods, whether it's a total station, GNSS, or whatever, to verify our ground truthing when we deliver these results out there as, again, what's seen as a drone services provider, not a surveying firm. So with that, I will throw it back to Camille or Alexei. And I think that kind of opens us up for some Q&A, unless you guys have something.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Alexei.
Steve. Yep, yeah, we have several questions regarding the platform that I would like to answer. So the first question is from Matt. I see thermal and ortho imagery as options. Can your platform process or receive input from the various magnetometer sensors, methane sensors, and include in WebViewer like it does for ortho or thermal imagery? And to address this question, I want to share my screen again just to show an example project which does exactly this thing. Just give me a second. I need to, change the tab. So this is an example where you combine data from methane detector. So you can process data from methane detector on the platform and visualize it as a heat map and build kind of an emission map. As of magnetometer, in case of magnetometer, the platform can only visualize data in, so you can upload GeoSoft grids here, and you can visualize nice looking heat maps with various options. You can configure range, you can configure color palette, you can, for example, enable hill shading, which is a common technique for visualizing small variations on the magnetic map. So yes, you can upload magnetic data, but for magnetic data, you need to use either GeoSoft montage software, or we have another product, GeoHammer, which evolves rapidly and which helps to process magnetic data right after the collection. And the other question that I would like to answer is from JP. I noticed there was a thermal tab in DroneGIS. What does it offer? Is there a markup ability or reportability for thermal inspection? Here's another example. So you can upload heat maps here. For example, if you stitch heat map in Agisoft Metashape, you can upload this heat map. You will be able to utilize all the same configuration panel, which helps you to configure value ranges, select proper palette, and highlight, some deviations in temperature. And also, yes, you can add annotations. And then after that, you can share a Microsoft Word file, which will export all your annotations together with the base layer. Can be either heat map or other layers that you select on the platform. Also, you might also notice these thermal images, and that's experimental stuff. So right now it's in development. So for those who do not stitch maps, but analyze just photos. I know that's like a common technique when you deal with various types of industrial inspections, with roof inspections. So yes, we are working on a special viewer for images, both RGB and thermal images, with the ability to annotate. So if you guys interested in such reporting software, then you can drop me a message after this webinar, and we can discuss how you can get access to that functionality. And another question I saw here on the platform was about, actually, DroneGIS have any offerings for roofing and reports? So yeah, we are working on that. So you can drop me a message and we can discuss that. Another question from Jason is, can platform handle viewing classified point clouds? Yes, it can. And if you give me just 1 second, I will try to show you an example. And yes, as you can see, the colorization mode for the point cloud here is by class. And here in the point cloud context menu, you can visualize classes. Software doesn't make classification itself, but if point cloud is properly attributed with classes, then yes, you can configure colorization by class, and also you can turn off different classes in the point cloud. Yep. So I hope that answers your question. So let me check if we have anything.
Yep.
Steve, the question to you. How do you see the question?
I do. It's a good
Okay,
one.
yeah, please go ahead.
So the engineering firm that I started with, and really that journey started with finding a survey mentor, right? Because you've got to have the mentor, especially when you're doing an online program. At the end of the day, I still run multiple companies, and I still, have a house and a life and all that. So I do an online program through the University of Maine. But for your labs, you need a local surveyor. That company was doing the designs for these subdivisions and these residential places going in, and they really kind of pushed and said, look, these builders are constantly having to do, whether it's warranty repairs afterwards for water mitigation, or they're getting misbilled or things like that. There's a real need. And so we kind of again worked with Alexei to understand how we could fulfill that need, and they were spot on. I mean, we still do the LiDAR topographies for the engineering firms, but we're now also supporting those builders that are going to the engineering firms to do the designs, just based on the fact that there is that need out there. So that's how we got started into that. Was again the suggestion that there's a need, and if you can fulfill that need, you'll be able to offer something they can use. I think you get the one, Alexei, for.
Yes, you can drop us a message. I actually, for those who are interested in the platform, I sent a link to the platform in chat. And if you would like to start using it, just fill the form and we'll open access to you. And yeah, for students, we can discuss extended trials as well.
So Fergus is asking about progressing in the industry without the CAD background. I will say, over the course of the last couple of years of trying to build this out and get that end-to-end deliverable, the best education I got was from YouTube. And there's more to it than a lot of what the content there. I believe on last check they were uploading 500 hours of content a second. But that's where I was able to figure out that by piecing each of those together. So in the CAD, I have had to study and learn both Bentley, which is kind of based on the MicroStation platform we use. Because we're doing topographies, we use OpenSite Designer. as well as AutoCAD Civil 3D, neither of which are affordable platforms by any stretch of the imagination. But if you are an active student, I believe they both, I know AutoCAD has a student license available for a lower price, but otherwise it's just practice, practice, study, study. And a lot of that had to come from YouTube because there is not a lot of quality end to end out there. So a lot of it had to be figured out, sleepless nights, waking up at 2 a.m., not being able to sleep because I'm thinking about the problem and then just getting on the computer and doing it.
Cool. I see one more question that I can answer. So Mark, how can I upload heat map files? Okay, that's pretty easy. Let me show you. I will share my screen just for a second again. And actually, this central, the entry point to most of the data uploads is here under the upload button. So here you can select which type of data you want to upload. And here's the thermal option, which means that you will upload single band GeoTIFF in most cases. That just gives a bit of context to the software when it processes the data. Okay. So
yeah, it looks like we answered to all the questions.
And we finished in time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Steve, Alexei, thank you for the great speech.
Sorry, maybe just one last note that maybe I forgot to mention regarding those updates that I demonstrated in the very beginning. So these updates will be rolled out to production till the end of this week. So you were the first who saw what's coming up to the software. So next 2-3 days, it will be released finally.
Yeah,
thanks everyone.
Great. And tomorrow, all of you will get the recording and link for the recording from the webinar and link for the platform as well, and an ability to write to us or Steve or Alexei, reach them if you need anything. So tomorrow you will get all necessary details from today's event. So once again, thank you so much for attending, and have a rest of the day.
All right. Cheers. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.